start even though it's a few minutes before, just to give ourselves a little bit of time in case there are any questions. You're all very welcome to Trinity College, and it's the second presentation today of the Bachelor in Music Education course. It's a 4-year undergraduate course. It's an honours course, it's a busy course, and it's run in conjunction with the Royal Irish Academy on Western Road. My name is Marie Karen, I'm course director here in Trinity, and this is Deborah Kelleher, and Deborah is director of the Royal Irish Academy of Music. So both of us will share the presentation to give you an insight into the course. If you're interested in studying on this course, you probably have visited both websites, ours at Trinity at www.tcd.ie/education. You'll be able to find all the information on the course there, or www.riam.ie, and again, give you an insight into both aspects of the course. So I'll take you to a presentation here, slide through it, and if there are any questions, we'll take them later. Okay. So who is this course for? It's normally called the BMUS Ed, or the Bachelor in Music Education. So it's for people who really enjoy performing, and I suppose that is its unique selling point. Music teachers throughout the country who have graduated from this course are easily identifiable as having quite an advanced level of performance and a confidence in relation to performance and a kind of a general disposition towards performing. So this is the thing about it. There's a lot of the course that is spent on performing music. That's the first thing. The second thing is people who wish, when they're finished in 4 years' time, when they're grown up at 22, to consider teaching as a career, either in secondary school or at conservatoire. This course, as I mentioned before, is taught jointly by Trinity here and the Royal Irish Academy across the road. I should mention there that students who enroll in this course are full-time students of both the Royal Irish Academy and of Trinity College, and as such, are open to enjoying the full gamut of events and supports and all the rest of it in both colleges. So why would students choose the BMUS Ed? And if we were to ask them, many of the reasons that they suggest to us are linked with performance. And as you can see, they say because there are lots of opportunities to perform and they love performing music. It requires a high level of performance, and so they're taught by the best in the Royal Irish Academy. So for those who are coming from the country who wouldn't have that level of, kind of expert instrumental teaching before, it's a chance to avail of that. The individual instrumental tuition is a huge draw. I'm not sure that there's any other undergraduate course, but I could be wrong, that is associated with or that has half its budget gone towards individual tuition in music or practical music making. So for that reason, there's no extra expense involved in that. It's part of the fee structure. As students of both Trinity and the Royal Irish Academy, they are able to participate in a whole bunch of music societies. For example, the Choral Society here in Trinity and also in the Royal Irish Academy, the Chorale in the Royal Irish Academy, Chamber Choir, the Orchestra, Concert Band, Irish Traditional Music, and that's just a few. Deborah will take you through a few of the other events, upcoming events in the Royal Irish Academy this year alone. The students and their parents, I suppose, like the idea of having something in the bank for the future. So the idea of doing education or becoming qualified as a teacher parallel with developing as a musician is something that I suppose people link with security for the future, because while at 18 the prospect of ever working as a teacher, something as conservative as that, is very far away. It's amazing how fast the years go. There is another route into secondary school teaching, and that is by doing either single honour here in Trinity in music, or TSM, which is 2-subject moderatorship, doing 2 subjects. 4 years for that, and then a further 2 years, because the PDE, or as we used to call it, the HDIP, that qualification for secondary school teaching is, as of this September, becoming a 2-year course. So there is I suppose you have to sort of make a decision now as to whether or not you want to focus entirely on music for 4 years and then afterwards do the teaching qualification, or whether you'd like to have the concurrent route to teaching, studying music as a single subject here. Let me go back on that one again, I missed the last one. The last point there, which is our Erasmus exchange, has become a very popular pull factor on this course. About 4 or 5 years ago, Deborah and I visited Hungary, and we signed an international agreement with the Kodai Institute outside of Budapest in a place called Kecskemét. And our students now have the chance of spending a semester in Kecskemét in junior sophomore year, as we call it in Trinity, or third year. Or we also visited the Royal Conservatoire in Scotland. They have a course there that they run in conjunction with Glasgow University. It's a partnership very like ours. And students, if they reach the criteria expected of them, academic and musical, apply to study for 1 term abroad in third year. And it's a very popular pull factor. The students who've been there, have really benefited enormously from it. And in addition to that, the students who have come here from the 2 universities are kind of looking at our course now with critical eyes, and they're able to draw to our attention what's very strong about our course. They even do teaching practice here in our schools, and so they're able to tell us about the difference, for example, between secondary school music in Scotland and what it's like, the reality of Leaving Cert music here in Ireland, and also the subjects that they're studying on their course in Kecskemét, abroad, in Hungary, and also in Scotland. So our course is evolving from our links with them at every level, both at undergraduate level and also as part of research. And last year I had the privilege of speaking in Budapest in June, and in the audience one of the students who had spent a semester here was sitting there listening to what I had to say about a research project we carried out here, where she was a participant. So when I introduced her to the other members of the audience, when it came to question time, they had questions for her, not for me. That was really nice to have this international dimension to the course. These are some of the students who graduated last year from the course. And you can see Tara Monaghan here playing the flute. She's teaching now at the moment in London. And in the middle, there are 3 students. I can see there Tara again. The girl in the middle, Fiona, is teaching in Boston. She was an American citizen. And I think that's Wes Roberts. Is it a boy there beside her? Yeah. So he's teaching in Spain at the moment. And over here you've got Fiona again. Now the reason I put those up, I think Lily is there as well. Lillian Harris is there beside. She's there on the left. Anybody who knows her from Sligo. These are students who had a kind of brush with Erasmus and suddenly had this thirst or this interest in moving abroad. And instead of looking for jobs in Ireland at a time when it's actually quite hard to get a permanent job, they found opportunities elsewhere and they went for it. Another young woman who graduated that year is teaching in Singapore at the moment. Now it's wonderful for them, it's a great experience, so when they come back they can speak with authority, talking about the comparisons between the way we teach music here and the way it's taught abroad. So it has opened a lot of opportunities for them. The courses that the students study, these are just a little sampling, you'll find them in the handbook or the Trinity brochure or on the website. In the Royal Irish Academy across the road, they would teach music related subjects. For example, I mentioned to you before, the most popular one of all is individual tuition. And one of our students last year had the privilege of working with Hugh Tinney after 1 year on the course. When I speak to her now, she's on a different plane. She's looking for pianos. She can't practice enough, even though Deborah might believe that, but they can't practice enough. They're skipping classes. They become inspired by the teachers who teach them in the academy. Oral perception, obviously, good ears and keyboard skills, very important for school. And if they should do a semester abroad in Kecskemét, that becomes an extremely important part of their course, the use of the ear. Composition, of course, so harmony, counterpoint, stylistic applied, all that sort of thing, at third level, at academic level. The history of music through the ages, including modules on Irish traditional music and its place here in school, and the teaching of, or the pedagogy of, percussion. So even if I am a vocalist or guitarist or whatever, maybe not guitar, I can see guitar here, although some people do come in with classical guitar, but pianist or whatever. In first year, I think it is, we teach modules, or they teach modules, should I say, but Deborah and I share the course, in the pedagogy of percussion. Using percussion in secondary school, how relevant is that to boys' schools? Boys' schools may not be as disposed to singing as they are to playing drums and instruments like that. Guitar playing, how do we teach guitar in a group situation in secondary school? Recorder, still there, even though I know it's becoming a bit of a fossil, and singing. And then conducting skills in music technology. While over here then in Trinity in the School of Education, the students are involved in the more academic aspect, I suppose, of becoming a teacher. So they would have right through the 4 years practice of music education, how to design lessons that are relevant for general classrooms. Are the pedagogies or the methodologies that we're using, are they appropriate to the culture of the school we're teaching in? Because the syllabus, even though you may not know it now as a student of Leaving Cert, is very broad. And your teacher makes the selections for a lot of the pieces that you're listening to in your class. As you know, for Leaving Cert, there's very, very little of the course that's actually set. 4 works, that's it. So it's up to the teacher what else she teaches you, and then you apply that music knowledge in the paper. So what you want is a broad mind in our teachers that can adapt to teaching, in city areas, in urban areas, throughout the country, in northern areas, or whatever. That's music education. And then, educational sociology. What are the values that we bring to music in society? How important is Irish traditional music in a city setting, an urban setting like Dublin? You realise it is. Where is liturgical music in Dublin? Where are the big cathedrals that are still singing the liturgies on Sunday, that kind of thing? The sociology of music. The psychology of music. How do we go about teaching music to children aged between 12 and 17 in a classroom setting? And also, as an individual, a teacher of individual students as well, how do we inspire students rather than turn them off? And of course, underneath all that is our philosophy. What do we believe in? Where is the value attached to music and music in secondary school? Why should the government be, putting money aside to teach music to our students? So we would take on a history of the philosophy of music right from the time of Plato and Aristotle. Plato looked on music as something that was quite dangerous because he understood that music is extremely powerful in how it influences young people, and how important it is for young people to be able to engage with their own culture and critique their own culture. And then Aristotle, who loved poetry, and said, well, I know we can't think, there's nothing functional we can think of in terms of how do we actually conduct our jobs the rest of our lives. How does music help us with that? But he would say, if you look at the utility value of a subject, you're missing a whole part of our lives as humans. So we look right from the ancient Greeks to what do we think today is the importance of teaching music in school, and that will underpin almost all the subjects you will do here in Trinity and the Royal Irish Academy. History of education. Where does music fit into education in Ireland? When national schools were established in the late 1830s, 40s, 50s, took about that length to get them established, and then there was the famine, so put paid to them again. So we were a while sort of introducing compulsory education, but music was a part of that education from the word go. What kind of music do they teach then? And is there any difference between the music they taught then and the music that we teach now? And if there isn't, we kind of wonder why. Who finances music? What type of music is available in different types of schools, etc., etc. And then assessment and educational issues. Assessment, how do we assess creativity? What is composing at Leaving Cert? Is it that little exam you do where you do 16 bars? Or is it more than that? Is it groups of students preparing to do their practical where they're making arrangements of music so they can play together? Is it arranging a piece for harp that was originally written for guitar? How should we be assessing the Leaving Cert? So we're hoping that we are inculcating in our students a sense of criticism about their subject that will be able to inform bodies like the NCCA in the future about the type of modules we should be teaching in school, the most relevant music programs. When I say education issues there, that's a very interesting module in the sense that we would take an issue that we feel is very important and we would put our students through an extraordinary loop of events to help them to understand that issue. One example I will give you is performance. We asked principals recently, what's the most important trait of a music teacher? And they said, the number of principals in the Dublin environment I'm talking about, because that's where we do our teaching practice. And they said, really, we know your students come out on their academics. What you want is teachers who can inspire an interest in performance and put the school on the map. Start a band, start a trad group, start a choir, support the orchestra. Teachers who are flexible, you will do that. So what we did is, all our students, as I said, are performers and they love to perform. But we decided to make the challenge greater for them. So what we did was we put their names into a hat at the beginning of term in third year, and we pulled them out according to in threes, not according to their instruments, but just by chance. So we pull out 3 instruments and we say, you put on 3 names, you put on a lunchtime concert for us for 1 hour right through the semester that we call the Middleman semester in Trinity. So, for example, you can imagine, I'll be showing you later on things, you might find that 3 piano players are pulled out, and they say, but how come you've only got 1 piano? You haven't even got a great piano. But they have to come up with a creative way of engaging with these instruments, because in school you might have nothing either. But people have hidden talents. People can sing, they have drum kits at home, they have guitars at home. Why aren't teachers asking them to bring these into the classroom? So it's that idea, but I'll come to that and show you some examples of that later. So just our Erasmus, as I said to you, was the partnership is with the Kodai Institute in Hungary and also with the Royal Conservatoire in Scotland. And I mentioned that already, so I won't go there. So these are the 2 partner colleges we have at the moment. we're looking to sort of push it out because students are interested now in going to Finland, to Helsinki, to Sibelius Academy. But there aren't that many courses internationally that are taught through English. The one in Hungary is taught through English. It's an international branch of the Liszt Academy in Budapest. The admission to the BMOZ is a little bit tricky in that there are about 3 stages involved. The first one is, after applying to the CAO, you'll be invited to come and do a test here in Trinity, a music test. And that test takes place in House 5, we call it, the music department. It is the exact same exam or test for every student applying for every music course in Trinity. And there are 3 music courses in Trinity. There's a single honour music course, which is TR 002 as far as I can remember. I can't remember the TSM or the 2-subject one. It's like doing art, music and another subject. Can't remember the number for that. And then there's R1, the most important one of all, which is TR 009, and that's the music education one. The difference between those 3 courses is those who are taking TR 009 or who think they're going to apply for it, who say, well, I might as well apply for it anyway, they must stay back and do a music essay when the test is finished for about an hour afterwards. And that music essay, the title of it changes every year, but basically it's just asking you to state why you think music should remain as a subject in school. What is the value of having music? So there'll be something around values and music education in schools. Last year, the year before, I think the one they asked was something about, you know, with the current emphasis on literacy and numeracy, make a case for retaining music in your school. So we'll be asking all about how you value, where do you see the value of music in your school? Okay, about 100 students will take that exam. And as Deborah points out in the last, when she came in at the last talk earlier this morning, it is very important to focus on that because we only take the top something out of that and audition them. So although it's kind of coming into town for a day, or you might kind of think, I'm meeting my friends for coffee and I'll do that test in Trinity, give it your best, because you might change your mind and you might want the course as the year goes on. Something happens, students always change their mind right up to the end. So give it your best shot so that you'll be called for an audition. So it's the top something out of that. The Academy might decide one year to take the top 40. You know, it depends really on the quality of the answers. But we'll take the students who we feel will make the grade at 3rd level. We'll make that academic and music grade. At this stage, it's the academic grade at 3rd level from that test. Then those students, top 40, 50, whatever they take in the Academy or in Trinity that year, are brought for an audition. And you will play your main instrument at audition, 2 pieces on it. You'll be given a little bit of sight reading. And then after that, you'll be interviewed. And the interview is really to test your commitment to this course. Because as you can imagine, people taking this course, because there's so few places, there are only 10, 11 places or whatever it is every year, the places are very precious. And we have found in the past that the students who are drawn to this course, like I said to you in the first slide, have a huge commitment to performance. And they may decide when they go into the Academy and they see and hear and work with these inspiring teachers, they really, really want to be performers. And their teachers may say to them, you're an exceptional performer. Did you ever think of performance? So we tend to lose 1 or 2 along the way. So at the very beginning, it's very important that you convince us that you really do want to be a music teacher, because we want to keep you for the 4 years, obviously. We can't offer the place to anybody else because the course is so intense and moves at such a rate. You couldn't offer the place halfway through 1st year. Indeed, you certainly couldn't offer it in 2nd year. So if a student moves into pure performance, or indeed into other aspects of the course, because they might decide at the end of teaching practice they don't actually like being in school, and that's okay, it's their choice to move. So if their performance level is at that standard and they're invited to go for pure performance, it means we lose a place on the course. And there's some student crying broken-hearted who didn't get that place. So we try to make sure that you really are somebody who is committed to the course and who may, even though they want to be a performer, will finish the course and may go on to do a master's in performance and of course become a performer, and Deborah will talk to you about that later. So that's just what our page looks like on the internet when you go into it. If you go into, you see it on top there, www.tc.ie/education, then courses, and you can see right down on the left hand side there the BMOS Ed course. And that's the BMOS Ed page. You'll find a whole lot of pictures and that sort of thing of our students and what they get up to on those pages. That's just a summary of what I said to you now, the interview and the performance during April, May, and that's kind of the calendar links to it. So February 1st you'll apply. Around the end of March, I'm not sure if it's the 29th, it might be because I see 2020-14 there, so I obviously updated that slide this year. And then the interview and performance is usually the end of April, beginning of May. Okay? So I'll hand over to Deborah now to continue.
Good morning. So as Marisha said, the Royal Irish Academy of Music is a partner in this BMUS-Ed course, so about half of your workload will be taking place in the Academy of Music. And this is our timeline. We were the first institution for music founded by the state in 1848. Some key dates: the Bachelor of Music Education was founded in 1986, and then right here is a very important date as well. In 2012, the Academy became an Associate College of Trinity College Dublin, so we're one of the colleges in their chain of their creative arts strategy. As Marisha said, it's very important when you start your degree that you know what aspect of music is most important to you. So within the Trinity family, for instance, you have the BMUS-Ed, which is ultimately geared at those that feel that they are committed to being secondary school teachers. Your pathway out of that, you may become a performer, as Marisha said, but you go into the process thinking, yes, I am interested in teaching education, in bringing teaching to the next generation, and a love of music. The other degree in the Trinity campus would be the two-subject moderatorship or pure music. I did pure music. So I just wanted to do the academic study of music, and I had no fixed idea as to whether I would become a teacher or a performer. It was the pure essence of the reflection on music. The third degree is what we do in the academy, which is the Bachelor in Music Performance. So we have students that are on our degree, which is a Trinity accredited degree, that wanted to be performers beyond everything else. Now, almost everybody in music has what we call a portfolio career. A music teacher in a secondary school is quite likely to be a very good performer outside that, and someone that does performance in the academy will very likely teach as well. But the question is the balance of what you want to do, the emphasis of what you want to do. I will say at this point, if it's starting to look a bit confusing, on the February midterm break, I do a one-day talk, an intensive session on all of the music courses in Ireland, and I also give group grinds on the entrance test. Marisha mentioned the entrance test for Trinity, for the BMUS-Ed and for the music degrees. It's not an easy test. There is an example of the test at 1 o'clock. You should take it. I remember when I did the test, there were actual screams of agony as I sat down to do it from other people that had never seen the test before. Now, it's got a little bit easier because I think it's become more balanced for what most people can do and their musical backgrounds, but it is still not easy. And because we shortlist on the basis of that test, you need to take that test very seriously. So if you're thinking you might need a little bit of extra help, do check the Academy website and look up the one-day course. It just might be the thing for you. Now, in the Academy, we love to play. And BMUS-Ed students have access to everything that we do. The Academy standards are those of a leading national institution and an institution that has a profile on the international stage. When I talk about our performance students and our BMUS-Ed students, I describe them as Ireland's musical Olympians. And we're the boxing team. We win the medals when we go out there and do it. So, our chamber orchestra is one ensemble that we have, and it's the ensemble in residence this year for the Royal College of Physicians. So we'll be doing series of performance in that beautiful space. Our chamber orchestra went to Carnegie Hall, and this is one of our publicity photos. That's Killian O'Bracken. He's a fourth-year BMUS-Ed student. So he got to perform on the stage in Carnegie Hall. He has the same rights and the same opportunities that our performance degree students would have. The Cunning Little Vixen is the next opera that we have. Probably our most high-profile and lavish thing are the annual operas. And the BMUS-Ed footprint is all over these. You will see BMUS-Ed in the orchestra, in the chorus, and also doing main roles. This year, to celebrate our Associate College status, we have a series of concerts called the Alumni Signature Series. Now, this cheeky little item here is Eilish Tynan. Eilish did the BMUS-Ed, but Eilish also had one of the greatest voices in opera of her generation. So when she finished the BMUS-Ed, she went to the Guildhall, she went to the National Opera Studio, she won first prize in the Cardiff Singer of the World, and now she has a career as a prima donna internationally all over the world. That's what we mean. A BMUS-Ed will have every opportunity that our students have. This is our March concert. There will be BMUS-Eds performing Stravinsky's Firebird, Mozart's Requiem. What I would say to you is come to Academy events, come to Trinity events. It's very important that you click and that you gel with the institution you're going to spend 4 years in. So at least 50% of your time will be there in the Academy on Westland Row. It's a good idea if you check our website. We have a very busy event schedule, and come into some master classes or some concerts so you actually try and get the feel for the place. I thought it would be a bit of fun to show you something. I mentioned our opera. 2 years ago we decided to do Semele, which is an opera by Handel. He said it was an oratorio, but he did that so it could be performed in religious services. In fact, it is a very cheeky and quite naughty opera. Again, Bima says they're all over this one. They are performing in the orchestra, they're performing in the chorus, and they even have lead roles with this one. So, just have a look at what's going on. I'm going to put it forward a bit because there's a bit of me talking, which you don't need to hear. I think it's a bit on the low side. Well then, I think I'll just continue to talk while this is going on. So, performance is at the heart of what the Academy does, but performance is also at the heart of what the House.
In 2010,
when Marisa spoke to you about the lessons that people get to
a year later he was taken on the Very Young Artists Programme, and since then has performed on the main stage in Munich, one of the most celebrated recent performances of Strauss's Rosenkavalier. And in 2011, Marcella Walsh was a charming Loretta in Johnny Sneaky for Us, a role she was to reprise a few months later for Wexford Festival Opera.
When
it gives
Marisa
us great
mentioned
pleasure to present to you tonight
pulling
the
names
next
out of a hat
generation
and having
of
3
exciting
different
young
players,
operatic
myself,
stars.
trying to create projects together. That was about going into a school where the facilities for music aren't great, and what do you do with that? But the basis of that is that all the players have to be confident and are capable of performing musicians in their own right, so that they have something that they can bring to that particular part. Even though that's the acting yawning, he's not actually yawning. So, if you're interested in looking at performances on the Academy, about the Academy, we have a YouTube channel, so check it out. But everything you see, you can understand that actually there will be people involved in that. Now, I'll pass you over to the girl is indomitable. She's probably playing it the last time we can have it back. Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm muting. Poor Anna. Oh, no. Does it again. You can tell we're not being too fine at the presentation. We're taking the technology course for the next year. Now, damn you. Oh, that's what I can do. So just we had one demonstration. This is the kind of activity the kids get up to when they're here, putting on lunchtime concerts. The streets of London, exactly, it's on the course. So he came over last year, he did modeling that on the kind of lessons that we're bringing into school now, trying to make them work with students. This is the attic at the was at last year. She really loves performing. She's taking 0 hours to bring performance up to
auditioned for Masters in Performance in the UK, and she was offered places in various places in the UK. And she was brought up in Brian performance that we had in the Scottish State. He's a woman over in this was who was Alice, who was not 15 actually together, who started with the top there, and they were one term, and the three of them, when their names were put out, the hat said, but the three of us play the piano, and you don't even have a piano in the arts block. I said, too bad, our school doesn't have a piano either. And they said, what do we do for a piano player in school? And I said, that isn't all you do. You do other things as well. They put on a really amazing concert, Gotcha Dance, as you can see there's a cheeky poster here. And they decided that they would use a kind of comedy as part of their act. So in this particular one here, they introduced it and said, we're now going to play a Rachmaninoff piece for 8 hands. If there's anybody in the audience who was 2, we could do with 2 more. And they presented a really, really good concert right through of 3 people playing, as well as she played flute as well, which was good. Joanne is also a flute player, so she did lots of that. But what they did was very interesting was they planted their friends in the audience and they did a flash mob. So when I went into certain songs, people stood up and started to play along with them. And what they were doing then was they were anticipating research in music education, knowing what type of concerts we put on at school. Are they presentational in the sense, here we present our best students? Or are they participatory? Like trad music, where we say, if there's a mommy or a daddy or an uncle or an aunt in the community who play, are they invited in? Are we all participating in this music event? They're anticipating the kind of research they're going to do when they go into 4th year. One question that a student asked me just in the last session that I forgot to mention, and I almost forgot here, is what happens when you finish? Do you only have one subject? And if you only have one subject, music, will secondary schools employ you? That's a really good subject, really good question. The reason we only have one subject is because we're doing the education concurrent with it, and you don't have to do 2 years and you're finished. But also, in 4th year, the students study another subject of their choice. So it's one of 10 subjects that are on the Leaving Cert at the moment. English, Irish, Maths, History, Geography, Business, Languages, whatever it is. They take that subject for 1 year only though. Now that is not enough for them to be registered as teachers of that subject with the Teaching Council registration. But the Teaching Council are only interested in registering you for one subject. So you finish then with your music qualification, you're registered as a teacher, a secondary school teacher, doesn't matter what your subject is. When you apply for a job, you say, my second subject was maths, for example, but I have an A in honours maths and Leaving Cert, but I only have done 1 year of maths in Trinity. Now, we have a student who was there somewhere, she's here, beautiful girl as well there, Sinead Roger, who is now teaching maths full-time in Oaklands College, because she's also continuing to study maths and top up her maths expertise or whatever it is with UCD in conjunction. And there's another girl who isn't there, I think, in that poster, who's teaching religion full-time in New Park Comprehensive. And again, she has in the last 2 years gone to Blue and topped up. So she's music and religion. So very often you'll find students afterwards, where the jobs demand that you have a second subject, topping up in order to get registered or in order to have the confidence to teach the subject. So that's in 4th year. And I think that's about all I have to say. Is there another one there? Oh yeah, what do students do when they finish? They do a variety of things. I said some go abroad, some take jobs here. Luke just finished last year, he was in that news thing as well. He's gone on to do, Deborah, are you able to make that work? I don't know. He's gone on to do a full-time composition course on Masters here in Trinity. And there's a piece called Sunset Steps that I just kind of pulled off his website. And might be able to hear a little bit of it. But again, you know, he's passionate about composing, and as Deborah said, they're inspired by the teachers who are teaching them at every level, you know. So yes, the music teachers, the instrumental teachers are amazing, but so are those who are teaching them composition. And in 4th year, they major, it's a bit like the Leaving Cert, they major either in academic writing, they do a dissertation, that's research, or in performance, if that's their thing, or in composition. Now they do all three, it's like the Leaving Cert, they must do all three, but they major in one. He majored in composition. So you hear a tiny bit of it. It's kind of Michael Nyman-esque-ish. Can we hear it? What's he going to do? Well, he's got an idea. I think it's a very good one. Just like an artist, in order to make money, can do portraits of new babies, for example. He can write music for a new baby born if you want to give them a present, or for your daughter who just did grade 7 is excellent in the thing. So he's setting up a website at the moment to write music for particular. It's not what he wants. He wants to obviously write beautiful art music, but he's able to do this as well. You know, so they're finding ways of using their expertise commercially in order to live or whatever. So I think the next slide on was one of the Trinitones. Have you heard the Trinitones? Again, Patrick Barrett came back from Keshmet last year and decided boys can sing. They're singing all over Hungary, they should be singing in Trinity. And he's got a group of boys called the Trinitones, an a cappella group. And they had something, Deborah said, something like over 8,000 hits. You find them on YouTube singing Teenage Dirtbag. But again, that was in relation to what do you bring into school? You know, what is the music kids like to sing in school? It has to be fun, they have to be part of their culture and all that. So I think that's really all I had. I had poster maybe for the lunchtime concert we have on Monday. If anybody's around town, they can come along and sing with us. Downstairs in the tunnel we're doing a kind of carol thing for just sing-along carol thing, raising money for SUS, which is an educational development fund. Has anybody any questions at this point for Deborah or myself? That's really it. That's really kind of a whistle stop tour through our course. Yeah.
And if you make it to like giving an audition, should your pieces be mostly classical based or can you?
Did you all hear that question? If you make it to audition, should your pieces be classical or would we consider other genres?
Really, what we're looking for is classical or traditional. In the academy, we only teach classical, but we have a partner college, the BIT, that can teach you trad. We don't teach pop music or folk or anything like that. So the honest answer is yes, we are looking for classical, because by year 3 you will need to be kind of diploma level classical in what you're doing. Yeah.
And the pieces for the audition, do they have to be of a certain standard?
Yes, they should be. I mean, the guide is you need to be kind of grade 6-ish standard as a minimum. And because this is a competitive process, you need to try and exceed that as much as you can. So pick pieces that show you off to your best ability, but have some kind of level of technical difficulty. We suggest 2 contrasting pieces. The obvious thing is slow fast, or 2 different kind of styles. Yeah.
Yes?
You mentioned teaching.
Go ahead, Jess.
When you mentioned teaching abroad, like your students in Boston, Do they have to send exams to
Yeah. It depends on the country, and each country will have its own accreditation, you know, of any professional qualification, medicine, nursing, whatever it is. And yes, she does, but she's doing a master's in conjunction with that in Boston at the moment. Yeah. Yes, sorry. Really good question. Yes, the answer is yes, because the teaching council, you know, will register you for, say, music, but if a principal thinks you're an inspiring maths teacher, which you could be, they will say to you, the parents are all saying, you're wonderful, will you take the second year through me now? So you're at the discretion of the principal, board of management, what you do up to junior cert. But yes, you can do that. Yeah. Yes?
Do your audition pieces, do they have to be classical? And do they have to be on a classical instrument?
Yes, really. If it's not classical, traditional is okay. But we can't teach things like electric guitar and stuff like that. It's not part of the ethos of the BMO set. So we have to be able to hear you on what we're going to teach you on in order to be able to assess you.
Yeah. I think the best course for those kind of instruments probably is the one they have in DIT called BIM. It's a new course that, you know, for electrical instruments, whatever they are. Yeah. Instruments you plug in. Band instruments, all that kind of thing.
Are you only trained in the one instrument?
You're only trained officially in the one instrument to a very high level, so you, as Maria said, you get access to other instruments. But we have had students that have been very good at, say, piano and flute, and they just enroll as a part-time flute student. So you can keep your instruments going, but you're not officially taught both.
Yeah, exactly. And there's plenty of opportunities to keep them going, you know, with the various ensembles. Yeah.
Are piano skills necessary for getting the course for auditioning response?
Not at the moment, no, because we the Academy teaches keyboard skills for 3 years.
Piano skills are very important, but you can do keyboard skills, and there's always a beginners class, so for people who haven't done it before, that's okay.
I just wanted to learn the phrases that you mentioned. Can you continue those phrases, or do you do competitions?
Oh yes, I mean you can do grades, you can do competitions, you can do something, I mean between you and your teacher, but teachers like grades because they're nice steps in doing things. You will also have end of year exams and stuff like that. So it's a question of juggling repertoire, is going to be the same, or two different repertoires that can be a challenge to learn that amount of pieces, but yeah, it's a short answer.
What level of music theory would be required?
Because of the entrance test, I would be saying your music theory would need to be about grade 6 with an ability to think outside the box. So when you go to the Trinity test at 1 o'clock, you're going to find there are tests that you may not have experienced before. If you haven't been doing theory in a conservative music or a college of music, it might be new to you. Now you might be able to do it, but part of the trick of these things is actually knowing what's coming up, so that you can get your head around, okay, I have this amount of knowledge and now I have to use it in this way. So I can't state enough how important it is to do the Trinity exam. And if you go to the exam and it is just mayhem, then do think about the one-day course in February, because I go back through. We spend about half of that day on the Trinity exam paper because it's simply the hardest one out of the lot of them. So you need to be match fit for that, definitely.
And you're expected to mixture of the exam and your book.
The exam is the first thing, and you get shortlisted on the basis of the exam. And the BMO set won't beat everybody. They'll probably take the top 40 or 50 from those that do the exam. But that is based on the level. I mean, there's a certain level below which, if you get a low percentage in the exam, we can tell that you're going to struggle so much in the BMO set that it is a problem. It's a very academic course. I mean, the Bachelor in Performance course is an easier entrance written paper, and we actually have provisions that if you get 40%, we don't even look at how you do. It's all about how you say. If you get 30 to 40, we're thinking, okay, weak, but we'll give them a bit of help if they're really good. We'll even take someone that gets 10%. We will just train them before they even come in, because about performance, it is about having the gift. But for the BMO says, you have to have the gift and you have to have this musical theory background, because it's very quick right from the get-go. So that's where the challenge is. Now, if you haven't done it, it doesn't matter, but you need to see the paper and you need to say, okay, how much am I going to devote to getting myself up to the standard? And that's where the music rhymes or whatever starts to kick in.
What grade standard is the sight reading test?
Grade 6-ish, local centre, Royal Irish Academy Music.
What is the instrument?
Clarinet.
Clarinet can be fine, it'll be doable, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's your guide.
It's your guide, yeah.
And when you say classical musicians, does that mean you can't play romantic or rock?
Oh no, of course, no.
Western European art music.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, absolutely. Or modern, or whatever you like to play. Yeah, absolutely. Another question, yeah?
How many people get the course each year?
Yeah, very good question. About 11-ish, we kind of, fill 10 places maybe, because we say 10 kind of for the Royal Irish Academy, don't we?
Yeah.
And sometimes we might go to 11, but again, it depends on funding. That's the big thing. It's a very, very expensive. We just had a course, I didn't mention that, re-evaluated by the Teaching Council, and it came back with gold stars all over it. But it's an expensive course to run. And that's why it has gold stars all over it, because the students really do, they're privileged really with the quality of the teaching. It costs a lot, so the Royal Irish Academy find it very difficult to offer more than 10, and then in exceptional cases 11 places. The DST, because they teach in larger groups, the year of entry to the DST, which is the following year obviously, not next year, 2015, they take 15 that year, and so the points goes down slightly in that year because there are 15 places.
That's the other thing, the points is significant to be said. After, if you get through the written test and you get the audition and we deem you of the standard,
right,
then it is who gets the highest points that year. So it can go up and go down. But there's some crazy years where it was 535, but the average would be
about 450, 460 kind of thing for minimum entry.
Whereas the performance degrees contrast with that, you just need to basically matriculate the leaving cert according to Trinity standards. So again, with performance, we just want the basic. It's not competitive, that forget about it, that's a thing, and it's all about the audition. So it's a different kind of person as the BMO students. They're usually, we love the BMO students because they're usually
bright,
really committed, talented, and huge contributors.
Yeah, they're everything really.
Not that our performers are dingbats, but it's a different kind of course.
Like, say if you applied for the course this year and you didn't happen to get it, could you wait? Would it be a good idea to wait and apply for it next year, or would you just be better off to move on?
I think it depends on how much you want it. It's always a risk. If you don't get it in 1 year, it's not necessarily a given you're going to get it in the second year. And we have people who've waited a year and they've got it, and we have people who've waited a year and they haven't got it.
Yeah.
So it's a risk.
Yeah.
Sorry, those 465 points, are they all CAO points?
Yeah.
Not a combination of the
No, and we're looking at a more holistic way of measuring, the student who comes in. But what we did last year was, at audition, we really only offered places to people we felt were strong on their instruments. And that brought the points down a little bit, because you find the people who spend a lot of time practicing don't have an awful lot of time for getting A1s. The people who get A1s tend to leave their music to the leaving cert year, and then they're lower performers, whatever. So we are trying to look at how we capture the best players with the most commitment. Very hard thing to do though, because you can't exclude anybody from this stage.
Can the course be deferred for a year, so something can do a gap year?
I think it can, yeah, absolutely, like all courses, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and people do that.
So just on the performance side of things, are you really expected to have grade 6, or is it just like off the standard?
Off the standard. You're not expected to have any grades at all. So really the course is supposed to fit with the leaving cert. But the problem is, if you haven't had, quite a lot of experience in performing at leaving cert level, either in school or in the community or whatever, you're going to find it hard to make the standard at the end of first year in the BMO. And that's where the people from the academy can call it on the day. They will know by your standard if you're able to move on. There's no point in offering a student a course if you think they're going to fail at the end of the year. There's too much ground to cover. So you don't have to have the grade 6, but it's of grade 6 standard or above.
You recommend the minimum grade 6 standard. What's the general level of people you get?
That's a good question. The general level, to be honest with you, because there's grade 8,
Totally, yeah.
lower level, the ones that get in and really try. When it comes to singers, it's different, because singers don't really know that they have a voice before they're in their team, so they're going to be back a bit. The other thing with wind and brass players is they have you look like a wind and brass player, are you? You're a pianist, like that. Wind and brass players only start playing their instruments when they get their second key, so they are late bloomers compared to others. Yeah. So we assess people according to kind of where we know they are in the instrumental life cycle. But it's grade 6 is the minimum, but you really want to be pushing that to be sure it's safe.
Would that be like grade 6 and 8? Would that be English? That's like, or is that be the London?
Well, we have our own exam, so we fancy our own, but it would be the same kind of 6 to 8. If you're doing associate board exam, it's the same as if you're doing academy exam, the general standard.
What is the spectrum of instruments?
Spectrum instruments, we have French horn, we have piano, we have a lot of singers, actually. We love getting anybody who plays the oboe or bassoon. We would fall on our knees with thankfulness if we got someone playing the oboe because it's such an unusual instrument. But in the academy, we teach 29 different instruments, so we take everybody. So the spectrum, we probably had a bit of everything except the bassoon in our time.
You had bassoon, original, she was DIT.
Yeah. The one that got away.
Well, you know how you said you do some courses in the DIT as well? What are the different?
There should be really, in theory, no difference.
Yeah.
It's just that every second year partnership changes.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same course.
So if you deferred a year, you would actually be going to DIT, so you need to go to this open day to hear the DIT.
Next
Would it be different or the number of places?
Because the number of places are greater in DIT, the points tend to go down that year. So yes, you're right, this will be the tricky year getting in now at the academy. So if you came back next year to repeat it, yes, there are more places, so the points will come down. So for example, the last year of the academy entry 2 years ago, and there are 2 of the students over at our table over in the dining hall, and they would talk to you if you want to talk to them some more about the actual experience of doing the degree. But they would have come in on in excess of 525, 535 points, most of them on 600. They were very high that year. The following year, there's students there 430, 440 something. You know, it went down to the second and third offer. Yeah. And nobody asked me about school. That's the funny thing. Isn't it funny? In the 2 groups this morning afternoon, when you do teaching practice, all like nobody even thinks about that. It's all the music thing. Yeah. You have to stay, don't you?
You do usually have to stay, and you should go for the one that's your most advanced instrument. If you're kind of really agonized, what 2 instruments are they? Trombone and bassoon?
Yeah, both great, you love those.
Bring them both in, okay. You need to just, put a red sticker, a red telephone will go off in the academy if your application goes in. If you're trombone and bassoon, put them both down, because we'll be very interested, because they're 2 different instruments. And because they're so unusual, we might actually assess them both. Because if you're not sure which one you're most advanced on, we probably need to talk to you about that. Because they're on the unusual scale.
So really you just pick and choose what you want.
You should, if you're a singer and a pianist, that's the most common thing, you should pick the thing you're most advanced in. Because you're going to get marked on that in this thing. So if you like to sing but you've been playing piano for 12 years, then you're going to be guided to piano.
Was the interview on any interview questions before?
The interview?
No.
No, because you've done your music now in your entrance exam, and you've also done it, you've performed it. So it's really about your communication skills, and where you see yourself in the future in terms of school, how you would change school music, your own experience in music in school today, general questions like that. Just looking at your ability to communicate and to assert yourself in the classroom, and those kind of things. Yeah.